Hello everyone, and welcome back to Toxic Terrors. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G. Today, we're talking about the sedimentary jellyfish, the anemones. Now, despite appearances, anemones are not plants, but rather, they are in fact animals. Although this isn't helped by the fact that there actually is a plant called the anemone, but blech. They're more specifically an Cnidaria, making them close relatives of jellyfish and coral, which are also animals and not plants. But I guess it's an easy mistake to make, since Cnidaria are some of the most primitive animals on the planet, and in fact, fossil records indicate that some of the earliest animals on Earth actually looked a lot like plants, so that's just kind of weird to think about. So, in a nutshell, Cnidaria are a relic of a bygone age when it comes to animal design. But regardless, most anemones are sedentary creatures that stay in one place all their life, with the exception of the swimming anemone, which is able to crawl along using its tentacles. Like jellyfish, anemones get their food from stinging fish and then eating them. Okay, look, I'm going to be real with you for a second. Anemones aren't the most interesting creatures to talk about. In fact, the most interesting things about them are how they relate to other animals, so how about we look through that? Now, I know what you're all thinking of, but let's just save that for a minute. Some species of hermit crab pluck anemones off the ground and then place them on their shell for protection against predators. Then we got boxer crabs, which pluck anemones from the ground and use them as boxing gloves against their enemies. Well, you know what they say, the anemone of my enemy is my friend. The anemone of my enemy is my friend. I think that's how the saying goes. Forget it, that was a terrible pun. But the most famous anemone relationship has to be with the humble clownfish. Clownfish are not very big fish. In fact, the largest of them is only half an inch long. They get their name from the fact that their patterns almost resemble clown makeup, if you squint hard enough, I guess. Maybe clowns wore orange back then, and I'm missing something. Oh well. Anyway, clownfish come in all sorts of varieties and colors, but the most famous is the oh-so-hilarious clownfish. Clownfish and anemones are a perfect example of what is known as a symbiotic relationship. Clownfish are coated in a mucus that makes them immune to the anemone's stinging, and as such they live among the anemone's tentacles, and in return for the home, the clownfish will keep the anemone clean and scare off predators that are also immune to the stinging, usually small fish that like to nibble on the tentacles. Also, clownfish poop can be quite nutritious for the anemones. Alright, now let's talk about the one thing about clownfish that it seems like everyone and their grandma won't shut up about because of the fact of how it relates to a certain movie. Let's talk about clownfish biology and their reproduction. Like a lot of fish, clownfish live in groups, but they're a lot more closely knit than most fish schools. In a group of clownfish, there's only one breeding pair consisting of the two largest fish, with the larger of the two being the only female in the group. See, clownfish are all born males, but the largest one in their group will change into a female in order to breed. However, in the event of her death, say for some reason a barracuda attack, then the next largest male will become female, and the largest male after that will become her breeding partner. So yes, if a certain movie was realistic, that is what would happen. Please shut up and make a new joke already. Who am I kidding? Whenever one of these parodies gets popular, that's the only joke people will ever make for the rest of time, isn't it? Because we are so original. We're just repeating the same jokes over and over. Hey guys, you know how mushrooms can be drugs? And you know how Mario likes to do mushrooms? Well, guess what? What if Mario was on mushroom drugs? Isn't that an original observation? Hey, you know how Willy Wonka's kind of a creepy guy who lives in a factory? Well, what if we made him an actual creep? Isn't that an original observation? Aren't we hilarious? You guys are not original and you are not funny. Stop stealing jokes that have already been made 1 billion times and come up with something original for Pete's sake. But I guess that's too hard for you, isn't it? You all just like repeating the same joke over and over because that's easy. It's easy just to repeat the same observation that everyone's already made about a movie, isn't it? Sorry about that, everyone. Kind of had a bit of a freak out there, but don't worry, I calmed down, and, yeah, okay, now let's just look at the cards. Alright, the anemone card I cannot find any problems with. But the clownfish card makes the usual mistake of only listing a single species when the name is supposed to refer to an entire group of animals. Here they only list the orange clownfish, even though there's also the Ocerelius clownfish and the tomato clownfish off the top of my head. But no, according to these cards, this is the only clownfish in existence. In fact, the back of the card even references Finding Nemo, even though Nemo and Marlin are Ocelerius clownfish, not orange clownfish. So this whole listing only one species thing is extra baffling here. So 9 out of 10 for you, Mr. Clownfish. Okay, human relation time. Anemones, people don't really care about them. I mean, you don't see signs warning about anemones like you do for jellyfish, do you? But people can appreciate them and things like that, so there's that, I guess. And they're decently common in captivity. I mean, after all, captive clownfish need something to hide in. Speaking of clownfish are pretty popular in captivity. You see them a lot in aquariums, and from what I've heard, they're some of the best fish to keep as pets if you're starting out with saltwater aquariums. And of course, who could forget the most famous clownfish of all? That's right, the Tragic Clownfish from The Sims 3. Oh my gosh, this is such a fun depiction of a clownfish. It's like they took this stereotypical idea of clownfish being funny and they ramped it up to 11 by showing that a clownfish's life isn't always just a comedy, sometimes it's a tragedy as well. Perfectly demonstrated by its painted on tear. It's like it knows that it has to live up to a reputation of being a funny clownfish, but deep down, it doesn't want to be funny, and no one takes a clownfish seriously because of it. Truly, this is a very sad thing. Unfortunately, I can't really think of any other appearances by clownfish, so that's all for this episode of Toxic Terrors, and I just now realized I spent more time talking about clownfish than anemones, meaning that this should be called Strange Wonders, I guess. Oops, oh well. See you guys next time. Bye.